Okay, so the internet seems to loathe Stranger Things 5, like a lot. Sure, this fifth and final season of Netflix's mega popular 80s nostalgia horror show that acts as a homage to both old Steven Spielberg movies and Stephen King novels, because this series has a hard-on for men named Steven, I guess, no matter which way Steven is spelled. But unfortunately, the internet hates this show, even more than they hate most things, which is very much saying something because the internet generally hates most things. But anyway, the point. The denizens of the webternets just attest the final season of Stranger Things with the type of vitriol generally reserved for convicted murderers and dentists. Like, we are in territory akin to the final seasons of Lost and Game of Thrones as being the worst thing ever to be ever. They're just not fans. But to be honest, I disagree with this sentiment. While Stranger Things 5 isn't as strong as some of the other seasons, hell, season 4 was arguably the show's best season, and Stranger Things 5 definitely doesn't meet that season's high standard. But the very notion that Stranger Things 5 is awful or even bad is just something that I don't vibe with. Because while I do have a laundry list of critiques against Stranger Things 5, which we'll get to in due time, I found Stranger Things 5 to be good. Not great, not exceptional, but good. Like 3.5 stars on a 5-star scale. A Milky Way compared to the superior Snickers bar. Mostly because Stranger Things 5 just wraps up the series' various loose ends in an entertaining and engaging way, but doesn't strive for much beyond that. The final season is merely fun for the sake of fun, which I will never fully be against. And Stranger Things 5's story and character development reflects this truth. Set in Hawkins, Indiana in the late 1980s, nearly 2 years after the finale of season 4, our crew of teenage and adult misfits, no relation, are still reeling from the narratively devastating haymaker they received at the end of Stranger Things 4. For a not-so-quick recap, Henry Creel, played by Jamie Campbell-Bower and codenamed Vecna by our lovely young Dungeons & Dragons troupe, was revealed to be the series' primary antagonist throughout the entirety of Stranger Things 4. In flashbacks involving Millie Bobby Brown's series' main protagonist Elle, also known as Eleven, who had plot-necessary amnesia regarding these events but was slowly but surely remembering them, Season 4 presented that Henry belonged in the same secret government as Elle, the program where the US military and scientists incarcerated and experimented on kids and young adults who have telekinetic and telepathic abilities. A program led by Dr. Martin Brenner, played by Matthew Modine, who you may remember as this Joker.
You, John Wayne?
And Brenner's prized pupils were Henry and Elle, the two most powerful telekinetic telepaths among these aforementioned kids and young adults. And from there, Henry more or less recruited Elle into a rebellious alliance and turned against Brenner, but Elle soon realizes that Henry is a mass-murdering psycho, and in an effort to kill him, Elle unintentionally sends Henry packing to the Shadow Realm, or what the show refers to as the Upside Down, and disfigures Henry's appearance until he resembles a monster, or at the very least, a very poorly aged Gumby whose rock and roll lifestyle really took its toll. But cocaine pancakes aside, Henry was trapped in the Upside Down and plotted his revenge, and thus sets the events of Stranger Things into motion. And in Stranger Things 4, Henry, or Vecna as I'm gonna call him now because it's a much more imposing nomer, that truly befits a top-of-the-line piece of shit of his stature, hatched a scheme where, due to reasons of plot that I don't have the fucking time to explain, Vecna would invade the minds of children and teenagers in Hawkins, Indiana, who experience past trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. Which, solidarity, my friends. Once establishing a psychic connection via telepathic Wi-Fi, Vecna sacrifices these children, and after a certain amount of sacrifices due to said reasons of plot, Vecna would then be freed from his banishment in the Hell Dimension, which as far as villainous plots go, that earns a 2 horns up from me.
I hate to say it, but
Yeah, not to be contradictory, but it's very metal.
And Sadie Sink's Max Mayfield was among Vecna's targets, which is notable because 1, she's my favorite character in this series, and 2, she's an active part of our band of misfits, once again, no relation, and thus Max and said band of misfits, or at least group members who currently dwell in Hawkins, because the crew is very much so scattered in Stranger Things 4, worked to forestall Max's potentially grisly fate, a plan that unfortunately somewhat fails. While Max technically survives and Vecna was wounded after receiving a well-deserved spin kick to his deep-fried green nutsack, Vecna's attempt to sacrifice Max was only interrupted after it had momentarily succeeded, meaning that Vecna was freed from his prison, all while Max entered a comatose state. And when combined with the death of Joseph Quinn's beloved metalhead Eddie Munson, Stranger Things 4's ending landed like a gut punch, even with the fact that Elle regained her abilities and the whole crew was reunited in Hawkins, because Stranger Things 4's finale just essentially shivved us in the jugular. And Stranger Things 5 picks up the pieces after an 18-month time jump. At the season's start, Hawkins is now run by the US military, who have also quarantined Hawkins from the outside world, and for mysterious reasons, Vecna hasn't engaged in an all-out war for the time being. In fact, Vecna's absence befuddles our merry band of heroes as they ponder what the sentient green loogie is plotting, or if he is even still alive at all after the events of Stranger Things 4. Regardless, the US military and the creatures from the Upside Down remain active in the Upside Down, and for those reasons, as well as the belief that Vecna isn't really dead even despite having a little doubt, our protagonists are preparing for Vecna's plans of world annihilation, doing what else they can to resist, and living their life with as much normalcy as possible, despite living amidst a federal government occupation and a potential apocalypse. The season premiere catches us all up to speed on all the characters. David Harbour's Jim Hopper regularly infiltrates the US military complex and enters the Upside Down. Elle trains with Hopper because she desires to do these missions alongside him, but Hopper is overprotective considering that Elle is essentially his adopted daughter. Finn Wolfhard's Mike Wheeler is everyone's emotional support human, but mostly Elle's. Natalie Dyer's Nancy Wheeler has the instincts of an investigative muckraking journalist willing to take action. Charlie Heaton's Jonathan Byers loves Nancy, but that one-time pervert needs to commit already. Also, this is of critical importance to national security. Winona Ryder's Joyce Byers is protective of her son and Noah Schnapp's Will, whose brain is often sensitive to what is happening in the Upside Down. Brett Gelman's Murray Bauman is essentially Han Solo in his smuggler era. Gaten Matarazzo's hyper-intelligent and highly amusing Dustin Henderson isolates himself from everyone else. Joe Keery's cool, handsome, charming, and suave, yet heartfelt Steve Harrington cares for his crew of youngins in place of any meaningful romantic life, because that shit dwells in the frightening realm known as the friend zone. Maya Hawke's Robin Buckley is an adorably ADHD chaos lesbian, which is also my favorite class in Baldur's Gate 3, as she runs a rebellious radio station with coded speak that is essentially the living embodiment of that one Rage Against the Machine song. Sadie Sink plays a vegetable, the one known as Max Mayfield, and Caleb McLaughlin's Lucas Sinclair spends a lot of time with Max in the hospital, using his presence and a good Kate Bush song in an effort to revive her, because who needs the miracles of modern medicine when there's running up that hill? Though that hospital stay must be very f***ing expensive. Hashtag running up that bill. That joke only works in America.
I thought my jokes were bad.
Admittedly, some of these descriptors don't sound very relevant to the whole rebellion aspect of Stranger Things 5's narrative, but regardless of impact, all our lovely protagonists perform acts of resistance in one way or another. Just trust me on this, otherwise we will be here all day. But regardless, the status quo is upended when monstrous demigorgons begin abducting Hawkins' young children, and from there our crew needs to figure out the truth about the Upside Down, as well as the intricacies of Vecna's plans to end the world, and how to defeat him alongside the other creatures of the Upside Down and the military forces in Hawkins in order to potentially save the world. Stranger Things 5's narrative and character development work overall. Most of the series' lingering mysteries are solved, the paranormal action is pretty dope, the back and forth banter from all our characters is both creative and entertaining, and each character receives some time in the spotlight and has a respective arc. For example, Elle's savior complex, Hopper being afraid that he will lose another daughter, Joyce also being overprotective of her son, Mike being a part of a plot that actually fucking matters this season, Will accepting that he is different both for the fact that he is neurally linked to Vecna and more importantly, the truth that he is gay, Robin's attempt to help Will all alongside her own struggles with having a secret relationship regarding her own lesbian identity and her inherent interest in La Casa de how the bromance between Steve and Dustin is having some trouble in paradise, and then how Lucas is trying everything to get Max to awaken because he both loves her and knows that she is necessary to help save Hawkins, which is an astute observation because Lucas knows the truth, Max is just the best character. And yeah, I found most of these plot lines to be engaging on their own and rewarding for those of us who have invested time and energy in this show since it debuted in 2017, because when it comes to the execution of the narrative and character development, Stranger Things 5 delivers. F*** you, DiGiorno. It's just an entertaining and all-around fun watch, which is what a Stranger Things show should be, because that's a constant through line with all 5 seasons, which is why I still overall enjoyed Stranger Things 5 despite the many criticisms from many people on the internet. It's why I still believe it's a good show. As for its many issues though, I'll need to do a spoilers video to dive into all of those, so I guess I will see you on the next one.